Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Save Mount Diablo's annual State of the Mountain Address. My name's Ted Clement. I'm the Executive Director of Save Mount Diablo, and it's really nice seeing you all tonight, and thank you so much for coming out. It's an auspicious day to be doing our State of the Mountain Address because today is one of our co-founders' birthday, Dr. Mary Bowerman. So thank you, Mary, and I think Mary is very pleased, I'm guessing, with the work that we have accomplished with your great support. So, as I look around the room, I do see a number of new faces, and that's very good to see. And I'm just curious if I could get a show of hands from people who are new to Save Mount Diablo, or have been a donor of ours for less than 5 years. So everyone who is new to Save Mount Diablo or have been a donor for less than 5 years, please raise your hands. All right, let's give it up for our new members. When I started at Save Mount Diablo, we had an active donor base of about 2,250 people. And we are now well over 5,000 active donors. So everyone who's given $1 or more in the past year. And it's a big reason why we feel so much gratitude for everyone new who's stepping up and getting involved with Save Mount Diablo. These successes that you're going to hear about tonight are very much a part of that great momentum and surge of energy you've given us. Now, just as important as all these wonderful new donors who are stepping up for Save Mount Diablo are our longtime supporters. We have people here tonight who have been donors of ours since the 1970s. And I see John Kiefer right there. And I believe Egon Peterson is here as well. Egon, where are you? Are you here? He couldn't make it. He was on the list, but something came up. So for all of the supporters here tonight who have been donors and supporters of Save Mount Diablo for over 5 years, would you please raise your hands? Let's give it up for that support. Year in, year out, being supporters of our organization, we're very inspired by you. Now, because we have a lot of new people here tonight, I want to make sure the new people start to get a sense of who our board members are and who our staff are. At the end of tonight's event, there will be time for additional mingling, and for new people in particular, I want you to understand who the board members and staff are in case you have questions about the work of Save Mount Diablo, want to get more involved, want to learn more. So would Save Mount Diablo's wonderful board of directors please stand up and raise your hand? Please stand up, just so everyone can see you. Let's give it up for our board of directors. Our board is very generous with their time and resources. They are volunteers, and we could not do it without them. And our board is led by Jim Felton, someone who I very much enjoy working with on a regular basis. Thank you, Jim. And the people that I work the most with are our staff, and I'm very grateful for this incredible group of people. Would Save Mount Diablo's staff please stand up and raise your hand so everyone can see you? Come on, Haley, Sam. And our staff worked very hard on putting on this event. Joanne McLuhan right there, who is my assistant and did incredible work on the PowerPoint. Our development team, Britt and Sam and Shannon and Karen and others, they just put in a lot of time to make it possible. So let's give it up for the staff again that worked on tonight. So the purpose of our State of the Mountain address tonight is to first reflect back on the year we just finished up, 2023, so that you as investors can see how your support translated into meaningful, lasting conservation successes. And thank goodness we have a lot to celebrate and go over tonight. The next thing we're going to do is sort of do a sneak peek into this new year we're in, 2024, and talk about some of the exciting things that we want to accomplish with your good support. Then we're going to do our Mountain Star Awards, and Jim Felton will come up at that point and lead that for you. And we want to celebrate and have fun tonight. So again, at the end, if you want to stay around for a while and have another glass of wine, talk to people, please do that. It's very special in life when you have a good community that you're a part of. Never take good community for granted. It's part of how you remain resilient and successful. So please, never take this community for granted. They're quite special. Speaking of not taking things for granted, so we don't forget the native peoples who have loved and cared for Mount Diablo and its sustaining Diablo range for eons and continue to do so. I'm going to read Save Mount Diablo's organizational land acknowledgement statement. This was approved by our board of directors. Save Mount Diablo recognizes that we are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Bay Miwok, Muwekma Ohlone, Northern Valley Yukuts, and other tribes and tribelets. Peoples who have loved and cared for Mount Diablo as a sacred mountain since time immemorial. Many of these peoples continue today as thriving members of the diverse communities of the greater San Francisco Bay Area and the larger Diablo Range region. We acknowledge and honor the Bay Miwok, Ohlone, and Northern Valley Yukut tribes, as well as all of the indigenous people of the lands which Save Mount Diablo serves. Okay, we are up and running. Good. So we're going to start again by focusing on accomplishments, conservation accomplishments from this past year, and we're going to start with land acquisition successes. So one of our first land acquisition successes in 2023 was helping with the acquisition of the Finley Road Ranch property, 768 acres. On the southern side of Mount Diablo, contiguous with Mount Diablo State Park, and this incredible property will, in the not too distant future, become an incredible staging area for the public to access Mount Diablo State Park, Morgan Territory Regional Preserve, even this new trail that we've established on our Curry Canyon Ranch that I'll talk about later, but a very strategic location, as you can see. The property has loads of conservation values. I was just talking about the conservation value of public access and getting out in nature. That will be a big attribute that this property affords the public long term, but it also is filled with steep chaparral slopes, important grasslands, so this is a property rich in conservation values. Now, we helped with this acquisition in various ways. East Bay Regional Park District was the organization that acquired the land. And I see John Mercurio right there on the board of directors of East Bay Regional Park District. Let's give it up for our good partners at East Bay Regional Park District. So we very much encouraged East Bay Regional Park District to try to protect this property because it's been on our priority acquisition list for a long time. And we knew we needed to help because it was a major acquisition, well over $11 million. So we provided money towards the option payment to get this property secured so that East Bay Regional Park District could then go out and try to raise the money to make it happen. The next phase, we really helped write letters of support for East Bay Regional Park District to all these funding agencies so they could come up with the money to close. And they did. They successfully closed in April. 768 acres have been permanently protected on the southern side of Mount Diablo. And in the not too distant future, you will see a great staging area there. You will see additional public trails, giving the community more access to Mount Diablo State Park, East Bay Regional Park District's Morgan Territory Preserve. So a major, major win. The next land acquisition success that we want to tell you about in 2023 was when Save Mount Diablo, within days had to move to try to protect the Balzerzak inholding. This property is the one in green up there. Let's see if I can make this pointer work. There it is. 10 acres surrounded on 4 sides by Mount Diablo State Park. Privately held inholdings within state parks, national parks, et cetera, are a really big deal. For example, if they were owned or acquired by a bad landowner in the future, doing bad management practices or other bad things on the property, it threatens the larger public park. So inholdings within Mount Diablo State Park are always the highest priority. This went on the market. We had to really react quickly to secure it. And thank goodness we did. And I should point out, our Curry Canyon Ranch is very close by as well. So you see the Mount Diablo State Park surrounding it, and that's Save Mount Diablo's Curry Canyon Ranch right there. Very strategic location. The property is rich in conservation values. It has creeks, oak woodland, chaparral. And when we acquired this, it had a purchase price of $1,075,000. We had half of that on hand to put down, but we had to quickly come up with a loan for the other half. We were successful with that, and now in about a year and a half or so, we will have to pay that off. And thankfully, we have very good friends and partners at the East Contra Costa Habitat Conservancy, and they in particular are working to get us grant funds to help us get reimbursed before we have to make this big balloon payment in about a year and a half. So when an inholding's protected in Mount Diablo State Park, we're pretty excited. Crane Pond. It's amazing how many acquisition successes we had last year thanks to your support. Crane Pond is this property right here. Oh, there we go. Crane Pond is right there. It falls within what we call the missing mile. The missing mile is this sort of light green bounded area on the slopes of Mount Diablo, comes down to Marsh Creek Road. It's about a square mile in size, and it's loaded up with privately owned properties, most of which are not, most of the acreage is not yet conserved or developed, so it sort of hangs in the balance. Because this is on the slopes of Mount Diablo, because it has very important conservation values like water resources and important habitats, it's a priority for us to protect lands within the missing mile. And you can see here, we've been doing a lot. I'll be talking in a bit about North Peak Ranch, but that's a property we have under, let's see. We have a very eager pointer. North Peak Ranch is one we have under an agreement, and I'll explain that in a minute. This is Concord Mount Diablo Trail Ride Association, about 154 acres that we protected in 2022. Here's the Young Canyon property, which is just under 20 acres. We protected that a number of years ago, and then Crane Pond. So conservation values on Crane Pond are off the chart. It has one of the largest water sources, this very large pond on the north side of the mountain, and you can see that pond right here. So very important for wildlife in the area. It's contiguous with Mount Diablo State Park. It's just a very, very important resource. It also has oak woodland forest and grasslands. So this is a lovely photo. I think Sean took this photo, Sean Burke, our land programs director. So we had to do a big fundraising campaign for this, and it was basically a $500,000 campaign, and we did it. We raised the money. We did an incredible major gifts effort. We took a lot of major significant donors out to see the property, and they made significant gifts to help us. But we also did some great community outreach for this. Joan Morris in her East Bay Times column drew attention to the importance of protecting this property, and that helped bring in 257 donations totaling over $61,000 just from the community in general. And of those 257 donations, 240 of those people were brand new to Save Mount Diablo. And I cannot say enough about the importance of bringing new people onto the team, especially at this time of the climate crisis, when there are so many stresses on our natural world. We need more broad responsibility in coming together to protect our natural world. So campaigns like this are so uplifting to see that people do care and they're willing to help. And we were very happy. And we successfully acquired this property in December. So we now own this incredible land, and hopefully one day we'll see it added to Mount Diablo State Park. Here's another photo of it. You can see the big summits. I think that's probably Olympia, and you can see the main summit in the distance. You can see the Summit Museum on top. North Peak Ranch. I told you I would talk about this in a moment. North Peak Ranch is within the missing mile. It's this one we talked about a moment ago. This is just about 90 acres in size. And in December, we made our 8th annual payment to buy this property. The 8th annual payment was in the amount of $100,000. And so we've been making these annual payments for a while now. We've got a couple more payments to make, and then the final balloon payment in December 2026. So the total cost will be a little over $1 million, but we will get ownership of this very important property that is contiguous with Mount Diablo State Park, the Concord Mount Diablo Trail Ride Association land. It's within the missing mile. This is a strategic property. And here are some lovely photos of it. Oak woodland, grasslands, important habitat. Gorgeous property right on the slopes of North Peak. So we've talked about Finley Road Ranch, the Balzerzak Inn Holding, Crane Pond, North Peak Ranch, and there was more conservation success on the land acquisition front near the end of the year with the Ginocchio Schwendel Ranch, which is shown on this map here. This property right here in pink. This is about 98 acres in size. It's in the Marsh Creek corridor. It's contiguous with our Marsh Creek 5 property that we previously protected. And you can see other lands that we have protected in the past. You can see an East Bay Regional Park District property there, Hanson Hills, which is one of the properties we conveyed to East Bay Regional Park District a few years ago. So very strategic location. And this property has very unique soils, volcanic soils, so it has important plants on it, and obviously being very high in watershed values right next to Marsh Creek. So we're very excited about it. And one of the reasons we're very excited about it, it's owned by the Ginocchio family. And many of you know the Ginocchio family is the most significant private landowning family in Contra Costa County. They've been here since the late 1800s. They own about 7,000 acres around Mount Diablo, on Mount Diablo. And this is a test they've given us. They trusted us, but they also wanted to see how we do with this. And basically, the deal we have is, it was an option agreement we secured in December. We spent $30,000 and bought a year. And now we have to raise about $1.455 million, so almost $1.5 million, to pay for all the project costs. The acquisition price for the land itself is $1.37 million, but then we have these attendant costs, a Phase 1 environmental site assessment, title work, title insurance, all these costs, staff time, you name it. So the whole project's about $1.5 million, and we need to raise that money by December of this year. Now, the Ginocchios want to see how we do because they have a lot of land. And if we do well on this, if we further our trust and relationship, that could lead to more significant things in the future. Thankfully, one of their very important patriarchs, John Ginocchio, has known us for a while and had some very nice things to say about us when we signed this option agreement. Here's a quote from John. "I am pleased to make this deal with Save Mount Diablo. When you think of influence, people often think about big environmental groups. Personally, I think Save Mount Diablo is the most influential environmental organization in our area. I've worked cooperatively with them for over 50 years. They're financially sound and have the funds to make solid deals and the integrity to go with it. We graze cattle on a number of Save Mount Diablo properties. I'm happy to see this part of the Ginocchio-Schwindel Ranch go to Save Mount Diablo because they've always been a good neighbor. That meant a lot to us when we saw that come from John Ginocchio. We don't own it yet, though. We've got to raise that money. So the process has started. We have an important meeting tomorrow with the foundation, and so we're working now to get those funds raised by December. Some more beautiful photos of Ginocchio-Schwindel Ranch. This is a Scott Hine photo, always beautiful. Another one of Scott's photos of the property. Just lovely. So that was some of the land acquisition successes from this past year that your support helped make possible. I would say your investments are really making a difference. And the great thing about land conservation is when you protect these lands, it's so tangible and it's in perpetuity. And there aren't many charitable endeavors that will continue to create public benefits in perpetuity. But land conservation is one of those unique charitable sectors where when you invest in it, it pays lasting dividends to the flora, fauna, our communities in perpetuity. It is a sound investment, and so thank you for helping us with all those acquisition successes last year. Stewardship. Land acquisition gets the headlines. It's very attractive and exciting and often time sensitive. You're competing against developers and other people to acquire these properties, but don't forget stewardship. Stewardship is once you take ownership of a property, or even if you just get a conservation easement on a property, that's when the long-term care happens. The removing of invasive species, the planting of native species, the day in, day out work that is required to take care of these lands. And we have a spectacular team that does stewardship work. One of the stewardship accomplishments from this past year was our 10,000 Trees and Plants project, which is part of our climate action plan. And I think we all understand at this point, our natural open spaces, these great oak woodland forests and grasslands, these are natural carbon sinks. And they are very much critical to us in this time of the climate crisis. One of the things we're doing at Save Mount Diablo is trying to build up the power, if you will, of our natural carbon sinks by planting more native trees and more native plants so they do an even better job absorbing carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So we set a goal in our climate action plan of planting 1,000 new native trees and plants every year for the next 10 years. And it's been going on for 3 years now, and we reached at the end, actually it was just last week, I think, we reached 3,000. We had actually a wonderful staff outing, and our staff went out and put the final, what was it, Haley, 150, 125 plants and trees in to hit that 3,000 number for the year. But the bulk of it happened in 2023, and it was a lot of our volunteers that did that, student volunteers, older volunteers, you name it, so many people out there helping us plant these trees, these plants, then watering them. And where's Giselle? I see Giselle back there. This incredible group of people, Giselle is part of that, works so hard to make sure they get the water to survive. So just planting them is not enough. You've got to take care of these trees and plants to give them a chance to survive. Fire abatement work. We take our responsibilities with fire abatement very seriously. Every year our crew is working hard on this. Here are a couple of our hardworking stewardship staff members all geared up, making sure the spaces around our structures are properly taken care of, and we're reducing fire risks. And there's Sean Burke, our land programs director, with a big Cheshire cat grin on his face because he got a new tractor last year. We applied to the Headco Foundation, and thankfully, they've been great supporters of Save Mount Diablo for many years. They gave us a big grant so we could buy our first big real tractor, and this helps immensely with fire abatement. Stewardship. so many aspects to stewardship. One is monitoring our properties on a regular basis to make sure there are no issues that need to be addressed. With our fee simple properties we own outright, we're out there regularly, typically at least monthly, checking on our properties. With our conservation easements, this is where someone else is the landowner and we hold a permanent conservation easement on the property to keep the open space protected. We typically will monitor those once a year to make sure the terms of the conservation easement are being followed. We want to respect a landowner's privacy, and so we try to be gentle with that, and we welcome these landowners being partners in stewardship, because stewardship is a big deal. And when we do conservation easement deals, we're so excited to have that help from the landowner. But it needs to be respectful, a respectful relationship, so we don't monitor those properties as much, but at least once a year. And we're talking about thousands of acres that we monitor. We have about 20 properties that we own outright, and then we have various conservation easements, so it's a lot of work. And our staff and our volunteers do that work. So we talked about the Balzerzak in-holding under acquisition a moment ago, and again, that was a big acquisition deal for us because it's an in-holding within Mount Diablo State Park. That was phase one, acquiring the property. Phase two is cleaning it up. And the prior landowner did a lot of wonderful things in that area, but unfortunately was a bit of a pack rat. And there was a ton of junk. There still is a ton of junk in the sort of the building envelope on the 10 acres. So our staff, our great volunteers have been doing a number of outings there to really clean the property up and get it ready to hopefully someday go to Mount Diablo State Park. And I'm going to talk about that issue a little bit more in a bit. Stewardship. Another great example of the kind of things we do with stewardship. And is Sean Burke in the room right now? Okay, well, there he is. Sean has been organizing these Pine Canyon cleanups for about 4 years now, and he has done such a great job bringing partners into this effort. So in our annual Pine Canyon cleanup, we're talking about Mount Diablo State Park joining us to do that, East Bay Regional Park District, the American Alpine Club, Bay Area Climbers Coalition, and Mount Diablo Trails Alliance. And it's all about partnerships because, again, stewardship is a really big deal. We all have to help each other take care of these lands, and just really appreciate that good work and those partnerships and collaborations that make it possible. This one happened, was it in November? Yeah. November, great. Wood chippers. We were very thankful to get a grant from the Coastal Conservancy in 2023 that enabled us to buy 2 very expensive chippers. We've been dealing with some tree die-off in the Mount Diablo area, and at times we need to move fuel load that threatens areas, and the wood chippers are critical to that process. And what we did is we bought 2 wood chippers, and we gave one to Mount Diablo State Park, which they very much needed. And that's Cameron Morrison there. Many of you know Cameron. He is the head ranger at Mount Diablo State Park. And he and Sean went to go pick up the new chippers that the Coastal Conservancy thankfully gave us good funds to go out and buy. So yeah, we're really getting ourselves well equipped to take care of these lands long term. All right, volunteers. We could not do what we do without our incredible volunteers. And our volunteers help us with so many different things. This is a picture of some of our volunteers at last year's Moonlight on the Mountain. And our development staff are amazing. And they work incredibly hard. But they really couldn't do big things like our Moonlight on the Mountain gala without a load of volunteers supporting them and helping them. And this captures some of those volunteers. We rely on volunteers for our stewardship activities. I touched on that earlier with the 10,000 Trees and Plants project. And we do the best we can to remind our volunteers they really mean a lot to us. We put on an annual volunteer appreciation party. This year it was a Halloween theme, And one weird guy even showed up in a hot dog costume with a chihuahua in a hot dog costume. And we do a volunteer of the month. It's amazing what our volunteers do for us. And if you feel we've not said thank you enough, I just want to say it again. Thank you. And by the way, because we've got a lot of volunteers here tonight, would you please raise your hand if you're a volunteer for, say, Mount Diablo on the board or doing stewardship work? Let's give it up for our volunteers. So, just some basic numbers for you. Last year, 2023, we had 633 volunteers who donated almost 4,500 hours to support Save Mount Diablo in stewardship work and fundraising in so many different areas. Now, in 2022, we had 604 volunteers. In 2021, we had 361 volunteers. So the number it's sort of tracking with this growth we're seeing in our donor base. And again, at this very important time for the natural world, it is just so inspiring and heartening to see people stepping up. I think they have a sense there is a lot of pressure on our natural world, and now is the time to step up for nature. And we see it with our volunteers, we see it with our donors, and we are very grateful for that. Advocacy and land use this past year. In January last year, after an extensive public education campaign led by Save Mount Diablo, we collectively achieved having the Concord City Council stop the group that included Sino Discovery Builders from becoming master developer for the Concord Reuse Project. And that was a big win. And 3 very courageous city council women were very much a part of that, and we will honor them later in the program. So we'll be coming back to that. Break the log jam. This past year, we've been working very hard to get state parks back into acquisition mode. At Mount Diablo State Park, they have not acquired and added a new property to Mount Diablo State Park in about 17 years. That's kind of amazing. And think about our history, especially for those who are new, and maybe this is going to be new to you, that's why I'm saying it. When we were formed in 1971, there was really just one park on Mount Diablo. That was Mount Diablo State Park. And back in those days, it was under 7,000 acres in size. And Save Mount Diablo and our other good partners, we jumped in and we helped grow the state park together to today about 20,000 acres. So it went from under 7,000 acres to about 20,000 acres. And by the way, Save Mount Diablo and our good partners, we went from this total conserved area on Mount Diablo of under 7,000 acres to now over 120,000 acres being conserved in the Mount Diablo area, not just on the mountain, but also around it. So we are making a significant difference, but State Parks has just not been moving on the acquisition front. They're doing so many great things with us on so many other fronts, like stewardship, like education. They are some of our most important partners. We are incredibly grateful for California State Parks and our really historic partnership. But the acquisition thing has become a problem, because this is the time of the climate crisis. We know we have to conserve more lands. We know we have to meet 30 by 30 goals. We know we have to get more communities connected to nature. We've got to acquire more land to do all of this. So we've been pretty vocal with state parks that we need to see improvements on the acquisition front and that we want to help. State parks, to their credit, agreed to start doing monthly meetings with Save Mount Diablo to try to break the logjam, to get lands added to Mount Diablo State Park. One of the deputy directors at State Parks is a part of that small working group. So we're really pleased about that, and we're pleased about them working hard to help us break the logjam and get important lands added. But this is a statewide problem. The problem is not just at Mount Diablo State Park. Many state parks have not acquired land in many, many years. So we need help. And if you go to our website, you'll see information about how you can help us reach out to state officials to encourage them to help state parks break the logjam. We need to be very clear in our messaging that as Californians, we want our state parks to be adding important lands, to be part of 30 by 30 and acquiring and protecting these important properties. So please visit our website for more information about that. And I should say, we've got a lot of properties at Save Mount Diablo to give to Mount Diablo State Park. And of course, if we convey those properties to Mount Diablo State Park, we get reimbursed for those costs, which we then use to protect more lands. So that very important process is broken down. If we get that started again, that's a lot more funds available to protect important properties. All right, so our land use and advocacy team, led by Seth Adams, and also with our very talented Juan Pablo Galvan Martinez, they're doing incredible work. Let's give it up for those two guys. You know, not only are they working on some of the things we just talked about, but they're staying busy on many other advocacy fronts. The proposed Faria development, which threatens the ridge line above the former Concord Naval Weapons Station. We've remained engaged on that. You may recall last year we had some successful lawsuits trying to get that development to better respect the ridge line, but Pittsburgh keeps going forward with it. So we have to remain active with that. We're planning a big mailer soon to educate people and get them more engaged and focused on this issue. Tesla's further south in the Diablo Range. You may recall a couple years ago, Save Mount Diablo and our partners were successful in making sure an OUV park didn't extend into the very important Tesla lands, over 3,000 acres, right in this narrow neck of the Diablo Range. It's very sensitive and important. We remain engaged on that. We were successful in making sure that off-road vehicles don't get to go onto the Tesla lands. Now we're trying to get it reserve status, this sort of highest level of conservation status within state parks. We continue to remain engaged on the Concord reuse project. So our team is just working on so many fronts. And I say this a lot about our Save Mount Diablo team. We punch above our weight. We really do. When you consider the amount of things we do, it's kind of amazing. But we've got great staff, we've got great supporters, and you know, we're very proud that we punch above our weight. New office. So last year was amazing for many reasons. One of the reasons was that amidst all these conservation successes, we did a major organizational move into a new office space. And if you've ever worked for a company that's done a big office move, you know how disruptive that can be. And we didn't lose a beat. We delivered on all these conservation projects, and we delivered on this new office. This new office is amazing, and it's pictured there on the left. Just gorgeous. It is saving us money compared to our old office. It's helping us reduce our carbon footprint. It's got LED lighting and other benefits that help us reduce our carbon footprint. And a really incredible guy helped make this all happen. Pat McGrath is here tonight, and I've got to find Pat. There's Pat. Pat, will you raise your hands? So Pat was, yes. And you'll feel good about that applause in just a second. So Pat was in the commercial real estate business for a long time and retired. And he came out of retirement when he knew that we needed to find a good new office to save money and to reduce our carbon footprint. Pat took Jim and I and Monica Uwe, our finance and administration director, around to see a number of buildings, and then helped us negotiate an incredible lease here. First 9 months, no rent. And then we went from, we used to pay $311 per square foot to down to $305 per square foot. So, I mean, Pat did all of that for us, and Pat received a very large commission. He was to receive a very large commission as our real estate broker on this. He had the owner just donate that directly to Save Mount Diablo, over $60,000. So very inspiring, not something you see every day. And that's actually a donor appreciation party and office opening party we did in July. On the right, those photos. And it was so much fun, and it was so neat to hear our donors say how impressed they were with the new space. And because it was so much fun, we're actually going to make that an annual event in the new office. For those who've been with us a long time, you know the new office has almost endless parking available. So it's really convenient for parties. Condors. So the first confirmed visit by a flock of California condors in our area in 100 years happened this past year. And they were confirmed because of the GPS transmitters on them, and we helped pay for that through our Mary Bowerman Science and Research Program. And again, the first confirmed flock of condors in the Mount Diablo area in 100 years. It's a really big deal. And that story went viral. When news of it broke, I literally had family and friends in New England calling me, telling me they had seen it on the evening news in New England. So a very, very big deal. Now, it's been building to this place. The first confirmed individual visit by a condor happened in 2021. Visit to our area, our Mount Diablo area. Hadn't happened in 100 years. Didn't have confirmation of it for 100 years. That was in 2021. And then we had another visit by a condor in 2022. And then obviously last year, the flock of condors, 6 of them coming to our area. So they are reestablishing their traditional area. In the Mount Diablo area, with that flock of 6, one was seen not far from the summit. So they are starting to come to this area again. It didn't go on the summit, but it wasn't too far away. So this really demonstrates the significance of Mount Diablo's sustaining Diablo range, this incredible 200-mile-long mountain range that Mount Diablo is a part of. You know, in the Mount Diablo area, many of you love the golden eagles that we see. We see so many golden eagles in our area. Well, we see so many golden eagles in our area because the largest concentration of nesting golden eagles on planet Earth are in the Diablo range. So it's a super highway for these incredible species. And thankfully, the condor population is rebounding from where it was in the 80s significantly, and they're starting to reestablish in this area because of this Diablo range that's largely intact. I'm going to talk more about the Diablo range further in the presentation. Okay, enough of just listening to me, because this room is filled with special people. And I mentioned it earlier, don't take community for granted, especially a community that's this special, who is stepping up for our natural world. You all share this love of Mount Diablo and the Diablo range. You're amazing people because you're not on the sidelines. You're helping us make these differences we're talking about, all those land acquisitions, all that stewardship work. You're helping make this possible. So I have a community building visualization exercise for you, and I've done it before. Some of you may recall it. But first of all, I'd like to test your mind's eye. Let's see if you've got a good mind's eye and if you can really visualize things. So first of all, please close your eyes. Again, we're going to use our mind's eye. Close your eyes, relax. Because we're near Mount Diablo, please visualize one of your favorite places to be in the Mount Diablo area, favorite natural places to be. It may be the summit of Black Point Peak, it may be the Mary Bowerman Trail, it may be Castle Rock, but visualize your favorite place and really start to feel it, hear it, see it. I'm going to be quiet now. Get that image in your mind. Okay, now with that image in your mind, I want you to look around you, and I'd like you to find someone you don't really know, someone who looks new. Introduce yourself. Tell your new friend what you visualized and why, and then listen to their vision. What property or what unique park did they visualize, and why is it special for them? So do that sharing. Let's take a couple minutes to do this, but please try to do it with someone that is new to you. Okay, let's bring it back to center. I'm sorry to break up your obviously very fruitful discussions. I love doing this exercise, and it's always the same result because I feel your enthusiasm, I hear your enthusiasm. These natural places mean so much to us, and we have such great people in the room, and when you get to share that with a kindred spirit, it's really quite beautiful to actually watch. I sit back and just feel that energy, and it's amazing. And it's also one of the reasons at Save Mount Diablo, we've started to invest more time, energy, and money into education programs. And many of you know we've actually been doing this for the last number of years because, you know, we've heard things like nature deficit disorder and that today's generations are spending much less time connecting with the natural world. And we know for sure love is the basis of good stewardship. And love comes from direct connection with something or someone. So we need to especially get our young generations out there and give them special experiences in nature and invest in that. That's what a healthy society should do. Nature is the ultimate foundation for our survival as a species. We have a responsibility to next generations to get them deeply connected so that they awaken to what is there for them, can help heal them, take care of them long term. And it's just too easy in this modern day that these kids get on their devices or they're over-programmed and they just don't have that quiet time in nature. One of the great programs we started a few years ago is our Conservation Collaboration Agreement program. And we do this with middle schools, high schools, and colleges. On the first day of this, we go into the classroom and we teach the students about who is Save Mount Diablo, what is land conservation, how do we do it, and why does it matter for their future? Give them kind of an intellectual understanding of what it is that we all do, that we're all a part of. The second day, we take them out into nature. We take them onto one of our properties, typically. Sometimes we'll go to Mount Diablo State Park, but typically it's one of our properties. And we'll do very important activities there with them. We'll do an environmental service project where they'll do a project like planting trees as part of our 10,000 trees and plants project, so they feel empowered and a part of addressing the climate crisis and be part of the solution. Because I can tell you so many young people are scared about the climate crisis. Because one of the things we do when we take them out to the land is we also do a solo in nature. So during the course of this day out on one of our properties, these young people will sit, sometimes for an hour, sometimes a couple hours, and they'll reflect on a question in their journals. The question is typically, what is nature and what is my part in nature? And these young people write such profound things, because for many of them, that's the first time they've had that experience of being quiet in nature. And many of those journal writes are about the climate crisis. So there is anxiety out there about this. And when we can get them involved, like in that environmental service project of planting native species that will help our carbon sinks be even more robust, they feel empowered, and that's so important. We do a nature hike with them as part of their experience as well, where one of our naturalists will teach them about the local flora and fauna and just be in awe of these incredible species that are all around us. And then the third part, these young people become members of Save Mount Diablo. We have a youth membership rate, and what we're trying to tell them is, listen, now's not the time to be on the sidelines for the natural world. Now's the time where we've got to stand up together. And we also want them to understand young people do have power. And when we do that solo, after the solo, we have them actually, we ask them, we don't tell them they have to, but we ask them to share what they've written in their journals, if they're comfortable doing so. But we encourage them to do it because we say it is not the time to be on the sidelines. You have to start giving voice to the natural world, your concerns, do it respectfully, do it intelligently, do it passionately. And if you start to speak that way to adults, the teachers, the politicians, etc., guess what? Oftentimes they will listen. So oftentimes our young people feel they're not empowered. They feel disempowered, and they're very discouraged and upset about the world that they see around them. So this is a really powerful program that we do at Save Mount Diablo. We're very proud of it. And again, we do it for high schools, middle schools, and colleges. In 2023, we did it with Bristow Middle School, Joaquin Moraga Intermediate School, Campo Lindo High School, and De La Salle High School. And we're looking forward to doing many more this coming year. Here's just one journal write from one high school student from this past year. She wrote, "Of course, we must strive to preserve nature because it is our essence. If you do not choose to love our foundation, our existence, you are neglecting yourself. Our relationship with nature is key to our survival and our children's survival." This is a high school student. And we also hear middle school students write incredible things. Dawn Lezak, where's Dawn? There's Dawn. Dawn is, yes, those who know Dawn, let's give it up for Dawn. Dawn is this amazing award-winning teacher who we have partnered together with for many years. And she's a teacher at Joaquin Moraga Intermediate School. And yeah, just amazing what some of her students have written about. Dawn also serves on our education committee as a volunteer. But it's this program is this great coming together of passionate staff, volunteers, amazing young people, and great teachers that want their kids to have a unique experience. Our young people have moves. So I mentioned how we've been focusing a lot on middle school, high school, and college students. This past year, we spent a lot of time developing a new program for 3rd to 5th graders, elementary school kids. There's a fair amount of research about how important it is to start the relationship with nature even earlier, like in elementary school years. So we are working on designing a program to do exactly that, and we look to launch it this year in 2024. Dawn Lezak has been heavy lifting on doing this for us, and I can't say thank you enough, Dawn. So. Yeah, you're a great partner. This is, yes. These are kids from Silverwood Elementary School. They did a number of pilot programs with us in 2023. And, Dawn was really, she was teaching it, and I had the pleasure one day of just observing her in action, and she's an amazing educator. And just honing how we best make this program work for young people. Like, one of the lessons we learned is we have to keep the activities a little bit shorter and then move on to a new one, short attention spans. So we're perfecting the thinking in the program so that this coming year, this year, now that we're in, when we launch it, we really make a difference. So exciting stuff. Discover Diablo, many of you know about this. This is our free public outings program. We do at least three outings a month. They're free of charge for the public, for young people, old people. There are hikes you can go on, trail runs, mountain biking adventures, Diablo range tours, so you can learn more about this incredible mountain range that Mount Diablo is a part of. There are botany trips and bird watching adventures, rock climbing. Some of the outings are in Spanish, so that we keep bringing more people into the fold and that they feel valued and respected. There are trips that involve meditation in nature, art in nature. It's a really amazing program, and we got a lot of great people outdoors doing great things. And I see, is that you, Allison? I saw Allison. Is that you? There's Allison leading that one group hiking in the lower right corner, my lower right corner. We also, some of you may remember in 2000, Sean, what was it, 2022 or 2023? We opened the Mangini Ranch Educational Preserve, 22. So we opened the Mangini Ranch Educational Preserve in 2022, but we really got it up and running this past year. We had multiple reservations there. We've developed over 4 miles of public trails. Oh, there goes the clicker again. Let's see if I can get back there. We opened up 4 miles of trails on the preserve. Oh, again. And the public can reserve this free of charge. It's for groups. Any group from 3 to 100 people in size. And we've had schools reserve it. We've had meditation groups reserve it. Artists reserve it. We've had just regular families reserve it, maybe for a special family reunion or event. So check out our website for more information, but it's been wonderful to see how the community's really embraced this. And the thinking is we need to create more intimate experiences in nature for people. And by having this preserve for your group to itself, no one else will be there, it helps encourage that intimate, meaningful experience in nature. BioBlitz was another educational thing that we did this past year, and it was very special this past year because we got to do a 24-hour focused BioBlitz at Tesla, which is that very important piece of land, over 3,000 acres in size, further south in the Diablo Range, the Corral Hollow area, that has not been open to the public in general. So it was so great for our staff and volunteers to get in there, observe the species and the biodiversity at that spot, very sensitive. So that was a terrific experience. And then we share those findings. Mary Bowerman Science and Research Colloquium, we do this every year. Again, we have this Mary Bowerman Science and Research program that gives out important grants to further science and research in the Mount Diablo area and the Diablo Range, so we can learn more about what's out there and how do we best take care of it. And then we put on this colloquium near the end of the year in December, where we share a lot of the results from that research so we can all keep learning together. Many of you attend that colloquium. It's free and open to the public. Also, this past year, we opened up a beautiful trail at our Curry Canyon Ranch, connecting Knobcone Point Road in Mount Diablo State Park to Riggs Canyon Road in Mount Diablo State Park. So the trail, which is 1.25 miles in length, goes like this. And check out this video to give you a sense how incredible this trail is and how fortunate the public is now to be able to go out and enjoy it. That's our own Joanne McLuhan and Haley Sutton out for a hike on our new trail. Pretty darn spectacular. 2024, so we're now going into this year that we've entered. We are an actively strategic team at Save Mount Diablo. This is a picture of our board of directors and our senior staff at our Curry Canyon Ranch. We did our annual board retreat in January there. We have this rolling 3-year plan process, strategic plan process, where in November we do a staff retreat and we talk about our direction, what we can do better, what new things we should be taking on, and it's really a discussion, staff of all levels sharing ideas and direction for the organization. Then we take that to the full board at their January retreat, and we share with the board what the staff feels would be really strategic for us, and the board has their ideas, and we have a meeting of the minds, and then we revise our strategic plan. So we basically peel off the year that we're completing and add a new year. And that way, it's always this rolling 3-year plan. We always envision 3 years out, and again, as we're completing a year, we peel that year off, add a new year, and any other updates we have to. So we're very engaged with our strategic plan, and it's made a huge difference in terms of bringing the team together and being more strategic as an organization. Out of that, well, in that retreat, it was agreed we have to continue our Diablo Range work in a big way. So in this time of the climate crisis, we've decided we have to do even more to protect Mount Diablo and its sustaining Diablo Range. As I mentioned earlier, the Diablo Range is this incredible mountain range that is about 200 miles long, with Mount Diablo as sort of the northern head of the range. This body that Mount Diablo is at the head of, there's Mount Diablo up there, and here's the whole Diablo Range from Contra Costa County down to Kern County, has about 3.5 million acres in it, and only about 25% of it is protected. But it's largely still intact. There are large land holdings within it, a lot of large ranches, a lot of private land holdings. So incredible biodiversity and an incredible opportunity to protect more land and help us, for example, achieve 30 by 30. So our board at the retreat agreed that we need to expand our geographic scope to cover the entire Diablo Range. And I'm going to explain how the board approved us going about that. We've expanded our advocacy efforts to the full 12 counties of the Diablo Range, where before it was only for 7 of the 12 counties. So we've now extended our range for the whole Diablo Range for our advocacy activities. And we've expanded the area within which we will consider accepting land or conservation easements using others' acquisition funds to the southern Santa Clara County line and Pacheco Pass, where before it was to the northern Santa Clara County line. So these are situations where, for example, an agency wants to donate a conservation easement to a land trust like Save Mount Diablo, or donate fee simple land, or they'll take care of the cost. So not a big expense for us. What stays the same is that we will keep focusing our acquisition funds from Mount Diablo south to Corral Hollow, which I referred to earlier as the narrow neck of the Diablo Range. So it's this area up here. And you can see how narrow that is, how Mount Diablo has this, is sort of above this narrow neck. And we have to make sure that due to development, poor planning, Mount Diablo does not get severed from its sustaining Diablo Range. We have to keep this incredible wildlife habitat corridor intact. And our board felt, again, at the time of the climate crisis, this is the time to step up. This is not a time for us to be shrinking violets when it comes to the natural world. We need to go big to protect this natural system so that it remains intact and is more resilient to the stresses caused by the climate crisis. And I want to acknowledge Seth Adams back there. Seth, in particular, has done so much work, becoming really one of the state's leading experts on the Diablo Range, so thank you for that, Seth. And I also want to acknowledge our other staff, because Sean Burke, where's Juan Pablo? Maybe Juan Pablo is Juan Pablo. They are also working very hard on developing their expertise. There's Juan Pablo. The team is really growing into this, and our board deserves so much credit for understanding now is the time to go big for nature. So we're excited. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this spring we are looking to release the first ever movie about the Diablo Range. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do a big premiere, and we very much hope you'll come out and get further educated about the Diablo Range, because we've been learning so much and we want to share that with you. I mentioned earlier how in December we got an option agreement signed on the Genocchio Schwendel Ranch, this incredible 98-acre property in the Marsh Creek corridor next to our Marsh Creek 5 property. So this year of 2024, we're going to be doing a lot of fundraising, because again, it's about a $1.5 million project in total. So we got some work to do. We are looking to open more public trails in 2024. And on our Curry Canyon Ranch. So we've been doing so much with trails for the public these last few years. In 2022, as we talked about earlier, we opened the 4.4 miles of trails at our Mangini Ranch Educational Preserve. This past year, like I mentioned, we opened the new 1.25-mile trail segment at our Curry Canyon Ranch. And at the January board retreat, it was approved that we will develop a new trail here in Purple along Curry Cave Road, and also one along Knobcone Point Road. What this will really do is open up some more reasonable but incredible loops for the public to enjoy, so they could park at Curry Point, come down Knobcone Point Road, then down Curry Cave Road, Grizzly Bear Road to Curry Canyon Road and back, or do a longer version over here. So we're excited about that, and that's something we look to deliver in this new year. Education, I already touched on this. We're looking to do a lot more education in this new year. Part of that will be with the 3rd to 5th grade program I told you about. We're also teaching our land conservation course at CSU East Bay again. It's a semester-long course. It's the 4th time that we've taught that course at CSU East Bay. We're so proud to be part of that in building the bench for conservation at one of the most ethnically diverse universities in the country. So we're very excited about that. Thank you. And you're very patient with me. I went past an hour and I didn't want to do that. So now I'm so excited to have a new speaker come up, and a great one at that, and a great partner of mine, Jim Felton, our board president. Jim is now going to take us through the Mountain Star Awards, where we honor Some really great kindred spirits in the conservation arena that we're very proud of. So please give it up for Jim Felton.
Now, we got to thank Ted for just showing off the organization like you can't believe. Every year it gets better. It's just great. So my job tonight is to first say good evening to everyone. And I'm the board president for Save Mount Diablo. And I get to present 2 Save Mount Diablo Star Awards, Mountain Star Awards tonight. Very special people that have made a lot of what you heard about possible. So the award recognizes individuals and organizations whose contribution has been significant in helping Save Mount Diablo advance its land conservation mission. And the criteria for nomination for this award includes efforts that support the preservation of Mount Diablo and Diablo Range while enhancing the quality of life in the surrounding communities. And these include, and really aren't limited to, leadership, restoration, stewardship, education, legislative support, research, and interpretive studies. Save Mount Diablo's board of directors has to review these awards and approve the candidates. So it's not just something that Ted and I brought to you. It's been thought through very, very carefully. So the first award, first Mountain Star Award, goes to Doug McConnell. And Doug is a well-known television journalist who's devoted his illustrious career to showcasing the Bay Area's splendid natural resources. Of course, that includes Mount Diablo and the Diablo Range. And through his television programs, this was all possible. His work has helped educate the public about irreplaceable value of protected natural lands, plants, wildlife, and people, and inspired generations of viewers to appreciate and conserve the gifts of nature. So we're big fans, Save Mount Diablo, of his television series called Open Road, and I'm sure most of you have seen this. And Doug McConnell is really responsible for this on NBC Bay Area. So I'd like to invite Nicholas McConnell, Doug's son, to come up and accept the Mountain Star Award on Doug's behalf and say a few words. Doug's currently recovering from an illness and couldn't be with us tonight, but we are grateful that his wife, Kathy, did come tonight and can witness the presentation. So.
I got some words to say. Hi, hello, hi, sorry. I am not Doug McConnell, as you know. I am his son, Nick. I will make this quick. As we said, he's not able to be here tonight, though he very, very, very much would have loved to be. This is so up his alley. This means the world to him. And so I'll just say a few words from him, sort of paraphrasing for him, and then we'll move forward. So. Yes, while I can accept this award on his behalf, this is a beautiful award, this is nice. I used to play with his Emmys as a kid, and I gotta say, this is a whole heck of a lot nicer. This is good, this is some heft to it. All right, so anyway, what I can do is accept this nice, beautiful award on his behalf and bring it to him and tell him all about this wonderful night with all these amazing people. But what I cannot do is match his gift for improvisational monologues, so just bear with me while I read a few of the thoughts that he shared with me. My dad has felt a deep connection to the natural world since practically the day that he was born. Everywhere he's lived, whether it's Alaska or Seattle or Gridley, California, He's found strength in a connection to nature. His family nurtured his appreciation of the natural world by encouraging him to explore and see what's out there. But ultimately, he tracks his connection all the way back to when he was a young boy, hearing his grandfather's stories of a childhood along the Delta up in Brentwood and in the shadows of Mount Diablo in the 1800s. As a result, his appreciation of nature has always been inextricably linked to Mount Diablo. When I moved in with my family to the Berkeley Hills a few years ago, one of the first things he said was, "Now it'll be easier to go check out Mount Diablo." We always took hikes and adventures, but Mount Diablo was sort of a focal point, right? Like something extra special that represented the natural gifts of the Bay Area, which we've been enjoying for 40 years since moving here. And we all have this incredible gift, thanks to the foresight and hard work of the amazing people behind Save Mount Diablo. We are all so deeply fortunate for the work this organization has done, and my dad, were he here tonight, would tell everyone in this room just how grateful he is to partner with you all in preserving the Diablo Range. I'll steal my dad's exact words for a moment here to close this out. He says, quote, "I am so honored by this award, and I'm thrilled to have this relationship with Save Mount Diablo. I love the team, and I love the staff. It is hard to match in any urban area what you have accomplished here. Save Mount Diablo is one of the greatest nonprofit land conservation public engagement organizations that I've encountered anywhere. That's because of your vision, your capacity to engage, educate, and rally the public. I am tremendously honored by this award from an organization and group of people who understand the value of preserving this beautiful area." So thank you on his behalf. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. You're beautiful.
So I also have the privilege of presenting the second award tonight, Mountain Star Award, and that's to 3 city council members from Concord, Laura Hoffmeiser, Laura Nakamura, and Carolyn Obringer. And thank you, ladies. They're all here. And you're going to get to hear from them in a minute. The 2 Lauras and Carolyn are joint recipients of the award. As community leaders and Concord City Council members, they demonstrated courage in rejecting the Sino-Concord first group as master developers for the Concord Naval Weapons Station reuse project. Through additional city parks protection, an enhancement for Mount Diablo Creek, off-site mitigation, and innovative and sustainable urban design. So they've been really active. Their united action support the selection of a more appropriate master developer and further the progress of this significant project has demonstrated their deep commitment to conservation priorities for the land on and around Mount Diablo. So I'd like to invite Laura Hoffmeiser, Laura Nakamura, and Carolyn Obringer up to accept the Mountain Star Award, and they each can make some remarks. Thank you, ladies.
Well, thank you very much, Jim and Ted, and good evening, everyone. I want to thank Save Mount Diablo for this honor. I'm deeply moved, so I thank you for this. And I do want to acknowledge my husband, Justin, who's standing there, Justin Gertis, and my brother-in-law, Jason. And they've been with me since the start of my public service journey. And there were 2 main motivations for me to get involved and run for Concord City Council. One was the promise of the redevelopment of the former Concord Naval Weapons Station, and the other was my goal of restoring public confidence in the promise of government actually listening to people and finding solutions for people's challenges. Now, I don't have to tell this group that the redevelopment of the former Concord Naval Weapons Station is complicated. And I was thinking about this today. I think there's two main reasons. One is that there isn't an advocacy group, an official advocacy group for the people of Concord and what they're looking for. And then the other issue is that this is a project that we race to make very important decisions, and the public gets somewhat engaged. And then the project seems to disappear from line of sight for the public because there's technical work that's going on in the background. But thanks to Save Mount Diablo, including Seth Adams and Pablo Galvan Martinez, in this case, you did keep the public's awareness and education top of mind. And so with your help, last year at this time, the three of us did have a very challenging decision to make. And I reached out to my network and I said, I need to hear from you. And the public was aware, and they made it very clear to me that they wanted a master developer that was going to fulfill the promise of the Concord reuse area plan that the community had helped to put together over a decade ago. And so now I stand here before you tonight, and I will say that any elected official knows you've got to enter into any development agreement with both eyes wide open. But I stand here tonight to say to you that this is the first time since I've been involved in this process that I feel confident, I feel or comfortable that we have a master developer. I'm optimistically confident. Someone who has a proven track record of working with the Navy, who's respecting our labor community, who's working with our community and even our city council and leaning in and trying to understand and work with us to help us fulfill the vision. So I invite you, don't stop. Stay engaged, stay informed, and even join us on February 20th when we are scheduled to hopefully sign a term sheet and take the next step toward fulfilling that vision of a sustainable world-class redevelopment of the former Concord Naval Weapons Station. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and also my thanks to Save Mount Diablo for this award and this recognition and honor. Never would I have believed when I was first in Concord in 1961, 10 years before Save Mount Diablo was established, that I would be here this evening receiving this recognition along with two of my colleagues on the City Council. My history, my background, I grew up in a subdivision in Concord, and I remember my mom, when I was literally 12 years old, giving me a dime so I could make a phone call coming back from riding my bike up to the summit of Save Mount Diablo at the gas station at the corner of Oak Grove Road and Ignacio Valley Road. It was only a dime back then. And I had another friend of mine from the street and 4 young kids that were between 7, 8, 9 years old with me. But we all went for a day to go to a ride up to the summit of Mount Diablo and back. Folks, those were the days of the late 1960s and the early 70s where you could go out and do that. You could play in your environment. You could go out and enjoy without having to worry about some of the issues we have to deal with today. But I will say, I went from there to hiking Mount Diablo with a bunch of friends from high school on days that we would go, oh, look, it's a beautiful spring day. I don't think we have classes we need to go to. So I think we'll just drive down to Mitchell Canyon Road and we'll go hike up, and we would wander off the trails and get up to Mitchell Rock and kind of wander our own way up to the summit. Sometimes we would end up taking such a long hike up that we would have to bum a ride from somebody up at the summit back down to the parking lot in Clayton so we could get home before our parents got home from work, because we apparently didn't go to school that day. We were out in the environment. So the park and the state park and Mount Diablo has always been an attraction that I've had, and as long as with some of my other friends. So I also know that connectivity is very important. It's not just the mountain all by itself, it's how it connects to other aspects in our region. I know Save Mount Diablo did a lot of work early on that was very controversial at the time with Black Hawk development, and creating open space connectivity into that development area. And I see the same opportunities happening with the Concord Naval Weapons Station, where we have Mount Diablo Creek, and we're able to connect the open space into the community. I will say that I hope you stay engaged, as well as the rest of our community, as Vice Mayor Olbringer said. This is a long process. We've been at this for almost 15 years now, and I said it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the other component is we're dealing with the federal government, folks. Things work very slowly. So we need to be vigilant and be engaged and don't give up, because at the end of the day, we will be able to see, I think, a project that's going to benefit our region, our open space, affordable housing needs, as well as jobs. And what I hope that our partners up in Solano County will kill California forever, because they're looking at 20,000 homes on hundreds of thousands of acres of land that they don't have all the water rights to exactly, but we have a plan for 13,000 homes that's at 2 BART station sites, or at least one within the Naval Weapons Station area. We've got water rights through all the work that Contra Costa Water District has done to create Los Vaqueros Reservoir. So we have an area that's primed and ready to go to be able to provide housing and jobs and open space and parks. And we don't need to be adding a whole new town, a whole new community out in the middle of farmland that doesn't have any of that, that somebody thinks it's going to be the vision of the future, a panacea, that there's not going to be traffic, that there's not going to be a car because everybody's going to walk everywhere. So hopefully the Silicon Valley folks will wake up, and I hope that the Solano County folks will kill the ballot measure over there, because we really need the investors to come into our community and to realize the vision of the Concord Naval Weapons Station and make this a success for our region. But again, thank you so much for the recognition. I'm very totally astounded by it, but I continue to do your work and the work of the community as we go forward in the future. Thank you. One last thing, a shout out to Seth Adams. My mother says hello. She remembers you when you first started with Save Mount Diablo, and she was working in the City of Concord's planning department at the time, and that's where they first connected. So she continues to follow your career. Thank you, Seth.
Good evening, everyone. I, too, am very honored. I'm also very nervous. Even though someone told me earlier this is a friendly crowd and that these are my people. I know these two have received awards like this in the past. This is going to be one of the first ones for me on my desk in the council office. I am 1 year into the job here of serving the people of Concord in District 5, and I am honored by this award. When I was trying to come up with what I was going to say tonight, Julia Butterfly Hill came to mind, and her courageous 2 years in that redwood tree, Luna. She came to mind to me with a quote, and I have it, but I'm not going to read it because I do remember the name of her. She wrote a book after that time. But it was also, for her, it was about speaking truth to power in that moment, in those 2 years, and really fighting that battle with the loggers who wanted to take down that tree. And she wrote a book later on called, Emily, what was the name of the book? It just one. It Takes One. I'm sorry. One Makes a Difference. And that wasn't that the name of the book, One Makes a Difference, wasn't lost on me, except for in this case, it was 3. But then I thought about it more, and I thought, no, it was so many more people than 3 or 1. There were so many people. I look around the room, and I see lots of people who did help with my campaign, that knocked on doors, who made phone calls to help get me elected so that I could be one of those 3 votes. if it was needed. And it was very politically, a very difficult political decision for the community, but the community stepped up. People at Save Mount Diablo stepped up and spoke up and really made their voices heard, and that was what really made a difference with the community showing up and for all of us to lead us down the right path. I also wanted to share something about my faith. My faith has taught me that care for creation and our climate change is a moral issue. And that is one thing that I take with me wherever I go. It is who I am. My father's here. He raised us in Pleasant Hill, and I want to do a shout out to you too. My bedroom I could see Mount Diablo from my bedroom in Pleasant Hill growing up. And then when I moved and settled in Concord, it was always very important to me that my children saw it. And when we were talking about closing our eyes in the mind's eye exercise, Campsite 17 came up. Campsite 17 is where we would go annually to watch the Perseids. We would be up there August 12th, sleeping out there without any sleep or any tents. It was just sleeping bags, open air, and just under the stars. And it was an amazing family tradition that we had done. I just hope you will indulge me for one more minute as I read a short statement from Pope Francis, who wrote in his encyclical letter, Laudato Si, on care for our common home. If we approach nature and the environment without this openness and awe and wonder, if we no longer speak the language of fraternity and beauty in our relationship with the world, our attitude will be that of masters, consumers, ruthless exploiters, unable to set limits on their immediate needs. By contrast, if we feel intimately united with all that exists, then sobriety and care will well up spontaneously. And I do believe that the care for our common home was in the forefront of everyone when we were going down the path of, and it will be also when we are coming up with our development plan and moving forward on the reuse project. We're now moving forward, and I think that the future looks very bright, and I really accept this award with deepest gratitude. Thank you.
So again, congratulations to our Mountain Star Award recipients, such inspiring people. And again, we want to thank you for helping us achieve so much success this past year in 2023. And while we've entered a new year and there are challenges, we actually have a lot of confidence and belief, primarily because of people like you in this room. You know, with your continued support, we're quite confident that we will continue to succeed and make a real difference for our natural world. So thank you. And please, actually, I forgot to mention this. Congressman Mark DeSaulnier very kindly sent in certificates of recognition for the Mountain Star Award recipients. So would the recipients or the people covering for them please see me after this meeting? Jim will actually kindly hand these out for me. Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Congressman, for sending those. But please feel free to stay around a little bit and have another glass of wine and just enjoy the special people that are here. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you. Yes, thank you.